Throughout history, humanity has spun horrifying tales of sapient species beyond our own. From ghastly subhuman creatures dwelling in decrepit subterranean lairs to ghoulish humanoids bent on destruction, these lores have delighted and terrified us in equal measure. The medieval period was rife with legends of menacing beings lurking in the shadows, while centuries later, the Industrial Revolution ushered in scientific breakthroughs in anatomy and genetics. With this came a new question. Could other sapient beings truly exist? Fiction began exploring this possibility, transforming ancient legends into sophisticated narratives. As our species advanced, so did our imagination, stretching beyond Earth's horizons into the cosmos. Stories of genetically mutated beings and intergalactic species became a cornerstone of speculative fiction, reigniting the age-old question, are we alone in the universe? Popular culture has since introduced us to countless humanoids, hybrids, and genetically altered beings across films, television, and comics. Characters that have captivated fans for decades. In this video, we'll explore 12 of the most iconic sapient species from Earth and beyond that have left geeks and comic enthusiasts like us wanting more. Let's begin, shall we? But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Yaa Predator. First up on our list, we have the Yaachas, more popularly known as Predators, the alien race of hunters from the Predator franchise. These formidable creatures brandish wrist blades to scalp and hunt humans stranded in forests far from civilization. They lure their prey into a chaotic pit of traps so elaborate they'd give even the poisoned punji traps from the Vietnam War. As the name suggests, the predators are an ancient sapient species bred for one purpose: the hunt. At first glance, they seem designed solely to wreak havoc, reveling in brutal rituals and bloodbaths. It wasn't until later in the franchise that we learn they're governed by a council of ancients, whose word is their gospel, followed with absolute devotion. For them, killing animals is more than a sport. It's a sacred honorary custom that grants their clan a seat at the top of the food chain. Thousands of years ago, these aliens discovered a backwater planet, Earth, and taught humans how to build, becoming worshipped as gods in return. The Yaachas are towering, menacing beings wielding technology far beyond our comprehension, using metals that don't even correspond to any element on the periodic table. Their gear includes thermal imaging, camouflage, and plasma weaponry, allowing them to attack, dismantle, and leave their prey crispier than turkeys on Thanksgiving. They've played a pivotal role in shaping humanity's evolution from hunter-gatherers, and naturally, they feel a sense of entitlement to us, similar to how we treat exotic animals or fawns in our pastime. They view us as prey, with a feeling of superiority and entitlement. What's even more fascinating is their view of humans. To quote Vicleda from Aliens vs. Predator: Prey, humans were supposed to be cowards, sneaky, deadly when cornered, but seldom stand-up face-on fighters. Well, you don't need to be clairvoyant to predict what happened next. We did it all day, made Captain America proud, and served them a grand feast of lead, blood, and sweat. The Predator franchise marked a landslide victory for alien fiction and horror, cementing a perennial legacy as a cult favorite. Xenomorphs, Alien. Next up, we have the Xenomorphs. While Predators pack a punch of gore and horror, they don't quite tie into the alien horror genre in the same way the Xenomorphs have over the decades. They are the stuff ghoulish nightmares are made of, a reckoning from the unknown. The lore surrounding the Xenomorph is an experience that sneaks up on you, getting under your skin, quite literally, in a way that taps into our primal instincts, forcing us to reflect on the fragile nature of our existence. It challenges the assumption that we are the supreme species on Earth, dismantling our hubris and reminding us of how vulnerable we truly are. What sets the Xenomorph apart is its fusion of body horror with the threat of extraterrestrial invasion, incorporating biomechanical elements into its design. We first encountered their terrifying presence on the big screen in 1979, under Ridley Scott's direction. Since then, they've become a cult favorite, even leading to crossovers with the Predators to satisfy fans. So what exactly are they like? Xenomorphs are parasitic insectoids with intelligence comparable to that of the earliest primates. While they lack abstract reasoning and don't process complex emotions, they are highly skilled in adaptive problem-solving during crises. Their social structure mirrors that of hive-based species such as ants or bees, with a queen serving as the supreme authority. The queen also possesses the ability to manipulate human technology, showcasing the species' eerie intelligence, so they can be considered semi-sapients in that regard. What truly sets them apart and makes them terrifying is their ability to retain characteristics and information from their host's DNA as they mature. This gives them a significant evolutionary advantage, making each new generation even more dangerous. Their appearance varies depending on the host, with the queen often growing twice the size or more of her offspring. Based on their roles within the hierarchy, there can be as many as 10 different types of xenomorphs. The most common are the drones, the queen, the Praetorians, who are entrusted with the care and protection of the queen, and the highly agile neomorphs, capable of dealing significant damage in close quarters. As decades pass, their lore grows chillier still with every new installment.
General, we have identified an engine ignition within the Citadel.
Kryptonians, Superman. At number 3, we have the Children of the Red Sun, the race of celestial giants before whom even the mightiest cosmic beings tremble in both fear and respect, the Kryptonians. Considered the strongest beings in the DC universe, they are on par with literal gods like Darkseid. In comparison to an average human, the magnitude of their strength and vigor is nearly infinite. These super sapient humanoids hail from a planet called Krypton. While they appear human in both form and nature, their biology far surpasses that of Earth's inhabitants. Kryptonians have the inherent ability to utilize energy in ways that are far more clinical and immediate than humans on Earth. It's said that their cells are the greatest organic storage units for power in all known galaxies. As a result, Kryptonians from various dimensions have developed abilities that can be considered superhuman when compared to Earth's humans. To name a few, Kryptonians possess super speed, strength, endurance, stamina, thermal vision, super breath, X-ray vision, and who knows what else they might develop in time. The full extent of their powers remains largely speculative, aside from what we've witnessed in comics and films. However, that's just one facet of their supremacy. Their true greatness extends far beyond their physical prowess, which is but a fraction of their evolutionary advancements. When it comes to intellect and technology, Kryptonians are masters of space and interstellar travel. Their understanding of genetics, biomechanical alterations, and augmentation has earned them the epithet Celestial Titans. Kryptonian society places great emphasis on the arts, science, military prowess, and theology. Their citizens are divided into guilds, and they are expected to serve the guild they belong to, even against their will. The religion practiced by Kryptonians is called Raoism, named after their primary god, Rao, who they believe descended from their sun. Rao is the sun in their galaxy and the source of their immense feats of power and miracles. While aspects of Kryptonian culture may vary across different universes, there is no debate about the formidable legacy of this species. The most famous Kryptonian, of course, is Earth's favorite son, Kal-El, better known as Superman. A pristine champion who upholds the highest moral standards in his quest, Kal-El was sent to Earth as an infant after Krypton was destroyed. His ship was bound for Earth because the planet's yellow sun would provide the nurturing environment he needed to grow and develop his powers. While Kryptonians are mighty, they often lack the moral compass that Superman embodies. As we've seen from survivors of Krypton like General Zod, some are willing to go to extreme lengths in the pursuit of their goals. Zod, for instance, was prepared to turn Earth into a barren wasteland in order to make the planet more habitable for Kryptonians, even plotting extinction to start anew. Asari, Mass Effect. The Asari are an extraterrestrial species native to the planet Thessia, renowned across the galaxy for their charm, wit, elegance, and diplomacy, preferring peaceful solutions over war, conquest, or invasion. They are one of the most respected species in the galaxy, known for their mastery of dark energy and their natural affinity for biotics. First introduced in Mass Effect Revelation, the Asari are a monogendered species who appear feminine by human standards. They possess one of the most powerful navies in the galaxy and cutting-edge technology, including superior weapons that can overwhelm enemy defenses, tearing through shields with ease. Over the centuries, the Asari have evolved to reproduce with any species, making them both conservative and vivacious when interacting with other sentients. Due to their value of fairness, wisdom, and healing, they're governed by a strong sense of duty and justice. This is one of the reasons they prefer compromise and cooperation over conflict. The Asari were instrumental in proposing and founding the Citadel Council, and they have shaped the laws that govern galactic societies for millennia. With lifespans of up to 1,000 human years, the Asari pass through 3 significant stages in life, each defining their nature and identity as a species. The first stage, the Maiden, is when they are most curious and restless, often engaging in parties or working as mercenaries. The second stage, the Matron, occurs around the age of 350, when they feel an innate desire to settle down and raise children. The final stage, melding, though rare, is a telepathic union between partners in which they attune their nervous systems to each other's, aiming to embrace eternity. Melding is seen as a spiritual communion, similar to Platonic ideas of enlightenment, where the couple becomes matriarchs. As matriarchs, they serve as sages and counselors, sharing centuries of knowledge and wisdom. Contrary to many extraterrestrial narratives, the Asari's culture is dynamic and refreshing, breaking free from the conventional heteronormative paradigms often seen across science fiction.
Pois we're right there. Ngal pelun malung if it's thing.
Will boots be me young?
Navi, Avatar. Set in a dystopian future in the year 2154, when Earth is mired in corruption, plagued by scarcity and overpopulation, an autocratic public organization named RDA, Resources Development Administration, emerges unmitigated, monopolizing the governance and the use of every available resource on the Earth. As the ecosystem on Earth becomes increasingly unstable and uninhabitable for humans due to incessant industrialization over the years, the RDA now turns to Pandora, a moon, the realm of a humanoid species known as N, that features breathtaking landscapes and diverse flora and fauna, particularly rich in unobtainium. Much of the events of the franchise are centered around this mineral that the RDA have had their eyes on, which becomes the point of conflict between the Navis and the RDA, to the extent where the two would become embroiled in a war. Navis are a peace-loving species of humanoids who consider harvesting the unobtainium a taboo, a violation of their beliefs and the sacred balance of the biosphere. They believe in the philosophy of preservation, whereby everything ties into the spirit of the Great Mother that meshes into every speck and matter of Pandora, as part of a divine consciousness. As a result, they practice gratitude and obedience to this law of the Divine Mother and refrain from being overtly spendthrift or wasteful in the use of resources. They live across lands, waters, and over trees, and can be categorized as essentially a society of hunter-gatherers, much like our forefathers during the Paleolithic era, using tools and technology that are wildly reminiscent of the ones we find from the Neolithic era. They're a highly intelligent race of sapients who prefer peace to violence. Standing at around 9 to 10 feet tall, these are graceful creatures. They're slender, yet sufficiently muscular. Their skin is a vibrant shade of blue with intricate bioluminescent markings that glow in the dark. Their large golden eyes offer them excellent night vision, while their long, flexible tails render them agile. Although the Navi wildly resembles felines, they are not obligate carnivores and certainly not feral, despite the presence of fangs. While they certainly hunt, but not as a sport, only as a means to survive. As sapient creatures, they possess remarkable intelligence and emotional depth in their outlook of life, often on par with humans from Earth, albeit certainly not as far gone as we are in our pursuit of glory and whims. They don't conquer, they coexist. They don't consume, they nurture. Their commitment to balance and peace isn't just a belief. It's a way of life that flows through their very veins. Zerg, Starcraft. The Zerg are a ruthless swarm of biologically advanced arthropodal aliens who are perennial infestors, constantly revamping their gene pool as they assimilate the genetic codes of advanced species they encounter and hunt, all in service of the evolutionary design to attain genetic perfection. As a species, they had one purpose: to assimilate the Protoss, a race of sapient humanoids native to the planet called Yaa, in order to create an armada of monstrous hybrids. These genetic abominations sprang forth as a result of experimentation carried out by a godlike race of aliens with supremely advanced technology. The Zerg are known as the Swarm for their ability to continuously create and deploy genetically modified strains of subspecies or variations of the hive. These strains are highly malleable, constantly evolving to meet the changing needs of combat. The Zerg are one of the three dominant species, alongside the Protoss and Terrans in the Milky Way, and are universally treated with contempt and hunted as a result. Much like the Xenomorphs, the Zerg are a parasitic hive mind operating under a queen, who organizes and directs all the Zerg strains to carry out the will of a single consciousness. This leaves no room for individual motivations or cognition. They're like locusts, sweeping across galaxies from one planet to another, leaving behind grim tales of death, despair, and carnage. In recent years, they have acquired a new ruler, the Queen of Blades, formerly a human named Sarah Kerrigan. The Zerg can carry out infestations and overwhelm armies in the blink of an eye. The queens serve as commanders or generals, mediating and leading the troops in frenzied skirmishes and melees.
The Zakari, too, live outside the structures of the Eldari path. Corrupt and cruel, they keep Slaanesh at bay, not with discipline and spirit stones.
Eldar, Warhammer 40k. Next up, we have the Eldari from the world of Warhammer 40k, the baddest bunch of villains whose lore and myths are every bit as gruesome as they are poignant and harrowing. A deeply tragic race of beings who once held the stars in their hands, but are now left to drift through the rubble of a once fabulous empire, meandering in the shadows of their legacy as specters of a nearly forgotten race. The Eldari are an ancient race of sapient humanoids, with legends that span millennia in the folds of time. It's believed that they were once among the most dominant civilizations in the galaxy. However, as they prospered, they grew tyrannical and irreverent, dabbling in darkness and ultimately bringing about their own doom. They birthed a god in their image, named Slaanesh, who grew stronger by feeding off Eldari souls. These psychic humanoids were so advanced that even death could not pose a barrier to them. While their corporeal forms would dissolve, their spirits, or astral projections, would return to the Immaterium for rebirth in new forms. The Warp, an alternate dimension of raw psychic energy, did not thirst for Eldari souls as it does now after their descent into darkness, which imprisoned them in a netherworld. The Eldari, or Eldar, look strikingly similar to humans, except they are flawless and appear as if carved out of polished marble. They're taller than average humans, with razor-sharp reflexes and overwhelming strength despite their slender, stocky build. Every Eldar possesses some level of psychic ability and is practically immune to almost every known disease or ailment. Even their technology is based on psychic engineering, allowing them to hone their mental energies in the manipulation of matter.
And now I'll keep mine. The Tyrion hierarchy will stand with humanity against the Reapers.
But the Reapers quickly...
Tyrions, Mass Effect. From the world of Mass Effect, the Tyrions are a race of aliens held in high regard for their commitment to the militaristic virtues of honor and discipline. Owing to their reliability as allies during Uprising, the Tyrions became the third species to secure a position on the Citadel Council, following their decisive victory against the belligerent Krogan during the Krogan rebellions. Tyrions make up the majority of forces in the Citadel fleet. The Navy of the hierarchy of Palaven, a branch of the Tyrion military, is considered the mightiest in the Milky Way. They can grow over 6 feet tall and typically have 2 long, proportionately thick fingers and a prehensile thumb on each hand, ending in sharp talons, as well as a set of mandibles around their mouths. Their most distinguishable feature is perhaps their metallic carapace, which contains trace amounts of thulium, a trait they evolved to protect themselves against the high levels of solar radiation that penetrate the weaker magnetic field of their homeworld. This adaptation makes them more resilient to radiation. Tyrion features bear a striking resemblance to avian characteristics, giving them the appearance of a sapient species of raptors or birds. The military is at the core of Tyrion society, and they are highly regimented, organized, and possess a well-defined hierarchy that dictates every aspect of their lives. They are greatly admired by other societies and are often considered the most progressive of the Citadel races. The hallmark of a true Tyrion is their ability to prioritize the greater good and cast aside personal desire for glory. Vulcans, Star Trek. Imagine a race of intellectuals masquerading as a species of alien humanoids. At first glance, that's exactly what they appear to be. Their demeanor is characterized by stoic indifference, devoid of compunction or facetious remarks, traits intrinsic to their nature. As a species, they almost exclusively rationalize and argue, a behavior that has become central to their identity and a defining attribute. However, they were not always this way. In the Star Trek saga, the Vulcans suffered centuries of heinous violence and bloody wars. Over time, they began embracing the teachings of Surak, transitioning towards logic and rationalism as a way to mask years of trauma and their passionate core behind a veil of nonchalance. Around the 22nd century, the Vulcans had lost the original meaning of Surak, spiraling back into their former state, engaging in petty squabbles and territorial disputes, indulging their caprice and whims. However, Syra and Jonathan Archer managed to recover the original body of Surak's work and restore harmony to the Vulcans' stoic temperament. A highly knowledgeable race of sapient humanoids, the Vulcans are skilled diplomats and were instrumental in founding the United Federation of Planets. They could easily be identified by their pointy ears and unswept eyebrows. Over the years, many different Vulcanoid races have descended from the Vulcans, such as the Romulans, the De Bruyne, and the Rigelians. Vulcans also developed a nictitating membrane, a kind of inner eyelid that protects them from the harshness of their home star, 40 Eridani. The only time they lose control over their emotions is during their mating phase, known as the Ponfar, which occurs every 7 years. During this period, their neural chemistry becomes imbalanced, causing them to lose their grip on their emotions. If a Vulcan fails to satisfy the Ponfar, they may even face death. Martians, the Martian Chronicles. These creatures from Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles stormed onto the contemporary scene of sci-fi by perfectly encapsulating the fads and fetishes of the 20th century that sparked curiosity among the people of Mars. Ray catered to that very obsession and offered a picaresque narrative of species of extraterrestrial telepathic humanoids whose culture and beliefs act as a sort of foil, or counterfoil in some instances, to humans. These Martians are numbered at only a handful since their civilization has started crumbling due to human colonization. Their skin tone is on the fairer side, characterized by a brownish hue, with thin, slender wrists and necks, and 6 fingers on each of their hands. Their eyes are huge and bulgy, like yellow coins, and they have melodious voices. The species takes to drinking from sources like wine trees and swims in canals filled with sand to enjoy leisure. The low oxygen doesn't pose a threat, as they seem to have adapted well to it. Martians see humans as uncanny, misshapen giants and are amused by their black hair and blue eyes. As a telepathic species, anyone who fails to control their telepathy is deemed not normal and gets thrown into an asylum for the insane. As telepaths, they can protect and regulate images and significantly influence olfactory or auditory sensations as well. Sometimes master telepaths can foretell the future and can even access memories of Earthmen, much like Professor X. Unlike humans, they don't question their existence, nor do they brood or sulk in existential dread. The unnerving apprehension simply doesn't exist among them. As for them, the very answer is in living and living well. They celebrate every waking hour of their existence by adopting a hedonistic way of living. They live in crystal houses and ride into battles on spiders to launch a barrage of poisonous bees as weapons. Basically, if there were a humanoid species of hippies and psychics who believed in carpe diem and lived relatively placid, luxurious lives as opposed to humans, a species plagued by hysteria and paranoia, declaring war and conquests as a mean to cope with the drudgery of existence, it would be the Martians. A thoroughly satirical take on the idea of sci-fi, Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles takes a jibe at colonialism. Every page is laced with poignant metaphors and themes that reverberate even to this day and age. Mbari, Babylon 5. The Mbari from the world of the Babylon 5 project are among the oldest of the younger races, hailing from the planet Minbar in Sector 120. These bipedal humanoid species are distinguished by a distinctive bony head that bifurcates into antlers at the temples, wrapping around to the nape of the neck and up to the crown. A race of highly intelligent beings, they are much taller than the average human. However, they're usually completely bald, unlike humans, with the exception of minimal body hair such as eyelashes. In some anomalous cases of genetic throwback or ethnic variation, evidenced in certain groups on Earth, some Mbari can grow facial hair. This could be in part due to the children of Valen, who in turn had human DNA and whom the Mbari could have inherited this trait from. Mbari physiology is believed to be incredibly resilient under circumstances that would prove fatal for humans. They're able to keep up unscathed and perform with the highest efficiency even after suffering multiple amputations or extreme blood loss. This resilience could be due to their robust metabolism and endurance, which allow them to recover and breathe in atmospheres with scarce oxygen. They can go for up to 2 weeks without food. However, their biochemistry cannot handle intoxication from alcohol. Even trace amounts of alcohol in their bloodstream can cause drastic psychochemical reactions, throwing them into fits of rage accompanied by psychotic impulses, making them extremely violent. They live in a society where spiritual enlightenment is regarded as the highest virtue. They're segregated into a caste system, but can rise through the ranks if they feel called to serve a purpose outside their caste. As telepathic creatures, they're highly trained to channel and control their impulses. They're taught to be selfless and to appreciate the importance of serving all aspects of life. Their worldview is pantheistic. They believe the universe is conscious and alive, and they subscribe to the notion of reincarnation. Thargoids, Elite Dangerous. Thargoids are a highly advanced species of insectoids from the online spaceflight simulation gaming franchise Elite Dangerous. Like the Zerg, they are a swarm-based hive mind-controlled by a central intelligence, responding to the needs of the swarm to vanquish and overwhelm their arch-nemesis, humans, with whom they've been at war for centuries. However, Thargoids are not fueled by an evolutionary need to consume every species they deem suitable for assimilation, as the Zerg are. They do not pursue this as a predatory instinct to top the food chain or diversify their gene pool. Thargoids are a species about whom we know very little. Much of their behavior and motivation remains shrouded in mystery. What we do know is that they can be highly territorial, rebuffing every attempt at establishing diplomatic overtures with the utmost hostility. In the distant past, the Thargoids waged war over a territorial dispute with another intelligent species called the Guardians. While the Guardians ultimately prevailed in the Great Conflict, the Thargoids withdrew, unprepared for a prolonged siege or campaign against a rival civilization. From the archives of the obelisks, we learn that the Thargoids are a species of sapient insectoids whose origins remain an enigma and are believed to be at least several million years old. They have a preference for ammonia-based environments, suggesting they evolved in harsh conditions that would prove detrimental to most other forms of life. Highly adept in bioengineering, it's likely that the Thargoids have modified their biology to the point where the natural evolutionary process has become meaningless. Marvelous verdict. From the early 60s, sci-fi horror and space exploration has been pivotal in shaping popular consciousness, marking an almost seismic shift that ushered in a new era in television. With bold new expeditions led by scientific communities worldwide, especially in the US after the Cold War, the idea of extraterrestrial settlements across galaxies began to take roots in the minds of people everywhere. Literary fictions and comics spun newfound lores that geeks and fans went gaga over, flocking in herds to theaters and comic conventions to bond over tales of distant space armadas and sapient civilizations. These were 12 of the most beloved alien myths and fantasies that have had the greatest impact on the sci-fi genre over the years. If you think we've missed any, by all means head to the comments, share your suggestions, and tell us about your favorite sapient species that you'd like to see covered in our next video.